Well, it gives me great pleasure to welcome Jeff from Will Haven to the podcast this week. Welcome, Jeff.
Hey, thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
No, absolutely my pleasure. This is I'm going to give you my little bit of history of me and Will Haven for a little bit. That's all right. Just to sort of set the tone of this interview on this front. But many years ago, not to make you feel old, I bought tickets to a Deftones show in London. And you guys were announced as the support for that particular tour and thing. So me being young and influential and influenced easily, I went into an HMV record store and they had the El Diablo EP in there. Picked it up and absolutely rinsed that thing dry. That CD, I had to buy that CD a few times. But yeah, like going to that, like listening to that CD, I just I was really into your sound, and then seeing you guys live was just amazing, and it continued from there. Obviously at that show as well, I met Grady at the bar at the back of the venue in the Astoria. He happily signed my El Diablo CD, which I still have today. And I bought a t-shirt that didn't fit me, so no, from there I saw you guys come back with the WHVN tour as well, Carpe Diem, all that kind of stuff. So I've followed you guys for absolutely, it's over 20 years.
Awesome.
And also, like, you probably won't remember this at all because it's back when the internet was very in its infantile times. But you actually did an interview for me, as in I sent you questions, you answered them, and I published them on my fanzine.
Okay.
Probably again around that 2000, probably just before in 1999 sort of time. So yeah, this is the second time I've actually had you technically for an interview, which is great.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for having me back. It's awesome.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was just one of those things. Like when I was a kid, I ran a fanzine, and yeah, I just reached out, and you guys said yes, and I was like, awesome. Oh yeah, great. I just
we're always down for interviews.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, no, that's the sort of history of me and your band, and that's why it's such a great pleasure to have you on the show, because your music has played a lot of integral part of my life. I've even covered one of your songs in a band I was in. I was on vocals, probably didn't do half the job Grady could do. But we did that, and I often spin a few of your sort of classic tracks at the clubs that I DJ and stuff when we were sort of open and things like that. So yeah, no, I mean, that's a bit of a long intro, but yeah, thank you for that initially.
No, thank you, man. I love doing interviews of people that have history with the band.
Yeah,
because a lot of times you do interviews and they don't know much about the band. Just kind of ask them just general questions, but then there's been times where you get interviews with people watch us on the Deftones tour, or saw us back in the day, and there's still true fans. That's awesome. I love doing interviews like that people know the band, have experienced the band, and
yeah,
kind of know our little bit of a history. It's kind of cool.
No, I mean that's the thing. That's why I love doing this now, interviewing guys like yourself, of bands that played kind of integral roles in my sort of musical maturity, if you will, sort of as I came out of my sort of teenage years in those late 90s, and then into my early 20s and stuff, where I was just going out to gigs. I was in a band as well, so it was just kind of the whole thing I was experiencing. Yeah. And just having you guys.
Good time.
Yeah,
good. You guys, best times, man.
Yep, definitely. And having you guys part of the soundtrack, it's awesome. But going on from there, I mean, we'll bring it up to sort of what you're up to today at some point. But no, I know you guys were due to play Download last year.
Twice, actually.
Yeah. And obviously both times that was kind of put to the sword, if you will. But what were you guys sort of planning? Because I know you were asking people, I know you were looking out for people just to send noises and stuff in a certain key.
Yeah.
Is with obviously, I guess, with a new album on the way potentially. Was that
Correct.
the general plan that obviously, obviously you guys were going to come over here and do your thing with download and probably a few other things as well. But what was the sort of, is that plan still kind of like album wise, is that still going ahead?
Yeah, I mean, we are, the record's almost done. We actually had a bunch of stuff written, and then when with the first, we were supposed to download in 2020.
Yeah.
Or 2019, 2020, whatever. And then so we were actually not started recording yet. So we were kind of scrambling, trying to figure out, are we going to put a record out? We're going to put an EP out, or the time was just kind of coming up too fast. But we were still planning on doing download and whatever. And then, of course, COVID hit. And then, like, Download said, okay, we'll put you on the 2021 festival. And I was like, okay, that'll give us time to, like, record and do stuff. So we started recording. We just went in and started recording the new record. And then the new one came out. Or no, and then so we got, added to that list. And then that one got canceled. And so when the 2022 list came out, we weren't on it. And I don't know if they just kind of just gave up on us or whatever, or we didn't try hard enough. But so now we're just kind of stalemate to where the record's still not done yet. Vocals still need to be finished, and then some mastering and stuff. But we're still putting out the record, and we're just playing it by ear, see what happens. I'm not sure how travel is going to work anyways anytime soon anyway. So the longer we wait, the better. Just let stuff just kind of normalize out. But kind of bummed we didn't get asked to do download again, because I mean that was the one festival that I've always wanted to do. And we've been around in England forever, so I thought eventually it would come our way. But finally, when it did, twice we didn't get to do it, and I'm like, oh man, it's such a bummer. So maybe down the road, maybe not next year, but the year after, something we can hop on there. But which kind of sucked too, because the last two we were going to do, we were going to play the same day as Deftones. So it would have been a cool, like, reunion of like us going back over there with them and having that again. So that would have been cool, but yeah, fortunately it didn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, how did like obviously apart from the sort of download cancellation and stuff, how did the sort of like COVID situation hit you, especially over in wherever you're in California, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Obviously, I get bits and bobs over from the States news wise. I got friends who live over there. I used to live over on the East Coast for a while as well, and I just sort of like, how has this time been for you, like generally? I mean, away from the sort of band as well, obviously that's halted progress with the album and various live shows, but what about sort of life around you and stuff?
It was weird. I mean, 2019 was probably a really fun year for us as far as like touring. Like we toured all over US and then Europe and stuff. And the last show we played was Download in Madrid, Spain. That was the last show we played. And then we came home and we started like just kind of taking some time off. And then I started kind of writing some stuff at home. And then all of a sudden COVID hit. But we had already planned for Download UK, but then and we thought actually it still might happen at the beginning, and then they said then eventually came down the pipe that it wasn't going to happen. So that's when everything started getting kind of weird and shutting down, and initially it was our governor here just kept saying, oh, it's going to be 2 weeks and bend the curve. I'm like, okay, we'll just hang out, stay at home, it's all good, no worries. And then it just kept dragging on and getting longer and longer. And so for me, like, I just sat at home and I just kind of was finishing up writing the new record, which was nice. That gave me some time to do that. And then just was kind of hanging out. And then I just told the guys, like, hey, let's just record this record, because we're obviously not going to play any shows. We're not going to do anything. So let's just go in and go in the studio and do it, like, why not? And so we just went to the studio, and we kind of went in took time, like we'd go in there for like a week, and then take a month off, go back in for another week, do some more stuff. So I could take it home and work on stuff. And so it was actually really nice and kind of fun. And there was no pressure, and we had no timeline. So it was actually not bad. I mean, besides all the politics and craziness in the world and all that stuff. But outside of that, it didn't bother me too much, because I don't really go out that much anyway. So so I just bought my new house like a year ago, so it was like enjoying my new house and hanging out. And so yeah, it was actually not bad. Now I'm over it. Now I'm ready to like get back out and start doing stuff. But at the time, it was weird for sure. But my life didn't change tremendously. Besides download getting canceled twice was kind of like the biggest bummer. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean that's good. I mean, I'm not one that goes out very much anymore anyway, but yeah, spending a lot of time in the house and stuff. It was same sort of thing here. It was supposed to be like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then it turned into months, and then it's been like a whole
year and a half.
And yeah, I'm sort of, I am ready to get back at things and stuff, and they're now running pilots for like various festivals and stuff like that at the moment.
I saw that. I saw the Downloads doing one come this weekend or next weekend or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. It's I think sort of middle of June I think they're doing, and they just announced the lineup today for that, and it's obviously all British bands, but and Bloodstock as well. They look like they're going ahead sort of full throttle with everything, and they've got just a massive bill of mainly British bands. Any of the US contingent that were on there have unfortunately cancelled, and a couple of European ones as well. But it's it's hopeful. We're hoping to sort of see that live scene back, because it's hindered a lot of the industry and whatnot.
I personally actually kind of like that, the Downloads doing that with all British bands, because if you look at Download, it was pretty much all American bands. And I was like, this kind of is a cool opportunity for bands over there to like play that festival or do something like that on that side, which is kind of cool. I was kind of digging that they did that. Yeah,
it's gonna be, it should be good. It's a solid lineup of the sort of like some of the top bands we've got in this country. Sort of classic ones. These are like the newer gen, I guess.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's cool. Great. It's great. And I was just going over the lineup just before this started, actually, and sort of, I wouldn't mind going, but I'm not one for camping, so
yeah. I hear that.
You have to stay on site for the whole thing for it to work. So yeah, there's sort of like you're sort of like kept in that festival for the whole weekend. There's no like getting a hotel or anything like that, or a camper van or whatever. It's just but that's part of the pilot scheme that the government are kind of running with them. So we'll see how it goes.
As long as there's live music and can hang out, man, that's all that matters.
Exactly. I'm waiting for the to open. That's where I'm back. That's where I go back. But no, with them back to sort of like let's go back. I want to talk about one of my favorite albums of yours, if that's all right.
Sure.
I mean, the EP El Diablo absolutely blew me away. It's the first thing I heard. Absolutely love it. But my favorite album of yours is WHVN. And not to sort of like discount any of the others. I love Muerte. I love is it Hierophant?
The Hierophant.
Yeah, Hierophant, sorry. Vior Dear, and oh god, what was the other one? Carpe Diem. They're all fantastic, but WHVN was one of those ones that kind of hit me at a pivotal moment. And I just want, if you obviously don't mind reminiscing about that sort of time, because it was kind of like, it was like that point where a lot of people were discovering you, especially over here in Europe. And what was it like for you guys sort of going into sort of making that particular album? Because it's got a great sort of like feel to it with, you made it kind of like that radio feel, like WNBC radio, whatever. But what was what was the time like for you around then?
It was cool, man. It was I think we were just kind of in a daze, because with El Diablo, we just did that at a studio here in Sacramento, and we didn't know what we were doing. I mean, it was our first, well, we put out an EP before that, but it was like our first full-length record. And we had we'd written these songs fairly quickly in our practice spot, and then we just went and recorded it. And our goal was just to play the local club in Sacramento. That's all we really cared about. We just got the opportunity to do a full-length record, and like, well, let's just put it out and see what happens. And then that record somehow, I don't know how it caught fire, but it did. Like, it just spread everywhere. And then the Deftones took us out on tour, and then that just got us on the magazines and stuff. So coming out of El Diablo, we were just like, well, what do we do now? Like, I mean, we pretty much we already lived all our dreams. Like, we toured the world with our best friends, and like we got like there's what do we do? So at the time we were sharing a practice spot with the Deftones in Sacramento. So we would just, and they were actually on tour, I think they were still doing Around the Fur tour. And then they actually started writing White Pony. So they were gone the whole time. And so we just started, we just kind of took over their spot, and we just went in there and just lived in that warehouse, just started just writing stuff. And I think our whole goal was like to do something a little different than El Diablo. And, we were huge in bands like Coalesce and Verge and like, Dead Guy and stuff like that. So, we were trying to like incorporate our, influence from the El Diablo, but then kind of incorporate some new stuff too. So, we just started trying to write the most craziest, wacky stuff we could, and didn't really think about how it would turn out on record. We just kind of just wrote it and then recorded it. So we were in a good spot. I don't know. I just didn't think we were just kind of just on this whole kick, like, let's do something different and have fun with it. And if people don't like it, no big deal. We already just did whatever our dreams were already made. So it's like, we never wanted to be rock stars. It wasn't our thing. We just kind of luckily fell into these little gems, whatever, over the past couple of years for El Diablo. So we're just, let's just go have fun and make a record and just do something different. That's kind of the mindset at the time.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, it's my favorite album out of all of yours on that front, and like I said, it hit me at that right time. I think just because I was blown away by you guys, like seeing you guys and hearing you guys on El Diablo, and obviously seeing you with the Deftones at that show in London at the Astoria. That's no longer a venue anymore, unfortunately.
Yeah, I know. That was my favorite venue. That was my favorite venue.
Yeah, no, definitely. I spent so many nights there. It was crazy.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I love tracks like If She Could Speak. And what's the other one? There's so many. Slopez.
Yeah.
Yep. And oh god. Muse was a good track as well.
Yeah.
I was just trying to reel them off now. But no, I mean that whole album, if you could like I know you obviously went into this warehouse and you just like kind of like came out with it, which is what I love. It's like there was no sort of expectation, I guess. I think that's probably what makes it like great for you.
Yeah.
Because it's like you've just done this thing and it's kind of blown up around you. And you followed it up with this album. And I mean that album got plenty of like plaudits at the time as well. Especially over here. I think it was definitely in the top albums of the year for a lot of journalists, and obviously definitely for me as well. But yeah, no, it's just like where was I going to go? Because you kind of like, because you've already covered where it kind of came from. It's really weird. I say, but it's a great album. I mean, what was the sort of like when you sort of like thought of the sort of like because I love the album artwork as well, and obviously the name, like the kind of radio and stuff. Where did that sort of come from?
That came from our the artwork came from our friend Jeff Gross. He also did El Diablo artwork too, and yeah, he just did those two records. Just a good friend of ours. He lives in LA. He was from Sacramento, but he moved to LA, and just a really good artist. And I don't even know if we came up with the radio idea first or he came up with that picture. He took the picture and then brought it to us, and then we came up with this whole idea of like, oh, let's kind of make it like a radio station, WHBN, and throw static in here. We put the national anthem at the end because what TVs used to go off air, they play the national anthem, stuff like that. So I don't know, we were just kind of always into concept kind of records and making them kind of like this cool one piece type thing.
Yeah.
So I think that all came towards at the end when we were just kind of sitting back like, oh, what do you want to call it, or what do you want to do? And then he brought us that artwork, like, oh, that'd be kind of cool to tie it all in as like a radio station thing. So for this band, it's always very spontaneous. And even I think more so that record, probably more than any other record we've done, that one was written and left as is. Like we didn't put a lot of time, like, you know, going over all the songs. Like we wrote those songs, you know, like maybe press record at practice, and we play once through it and listen back, like, oh, that's good. And then just leave it at that. You know, it was very, I guess, a more really organic record, because we didn't, like the last two records, I spent a lot of time on them, like making sure everything sounds good. And I want this to go this and here to go here. With that record, just like, let's jam it and record it and leave it as is. So it's pretty raw and it's pretty organic, and it's yeah, it's not overthought at all. So that's probably why it came out the way it did.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, I love it. You know, I can't say any more words on that front.
Thanks, man.
But let's talk about your follow-up set, which was Carpe Diem. Again, fantastic. I love the artwork on it. That kind of film artwork on there. With it was like the outline of the woman on there, I think it was.
Yeah.
So yeah, take me back to that point, because like obviously this point now you've kind of got the plaudits from obviously El Diablo and WHVN, and then you kind of hit us with Carpe Diem. What was the sort of momentum like with that at that point with you guys? How was it?
It was good. I mean, the WHVN, like, it was just another whirlwind of like amazing things happen. I mean, we put that record out. I mean, I'm kind of going behind the scenes here, but crazy stories. Like, I remember, you know, we had just put the record out. We weren't sure what we were gonna do. You know, we had an agent over in Europe, but you know, we still were just not, you know, one of his mainstream bands, whatever. So I remember one day, I was like, the record just came out, and Stefan from Deftones came to my house. We were hanging out on my front porch, and Christian from Fear Factory called him on the phone, and they were just talking, and I overheard Christian saying, "Who are you guys going to take to Europe?" And I was like, "Hey, tell him Willhaven." And so Stefan's like, "Hey, why don't you take on my boys Willhaven to Europe?" And Christian's like, so Christian got on the phone with me that same, you know, right there and then. He's like, "Hey, you guys want to go to Europe?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude, let's do it." So here we are, touring with Fear Factory across, you know, England and Europe, like for a full European tour. And I'm like, this is crazy. Like, we just happened to be just lucky enough to like be at the right place at the right time all the time. And then we did a couple tours of Soulfly, and then I remember Gloria kind of started managing us in America for a little bit, and she called me at work one day, and she's like, "Hey, you won't believe this, but Slipknot wants to take you guys on tour with them." And I'm like, "How do they even know who the hell we are?" So she's like, "Well, you got to be in Iowa in 2 days." So like, you know, 2 or 3 days later, we're packing up the car and we're driving and doing a tour of Slipknot. So that was on WHBN tour. And so, I mean, it was just another like crazy year of just this stuff that I don't even know how we got it or if we deserved it. Like, I don't. So when we got done with that, we're like, what the hell? Like, you know, let's just, I guess, just keep writing and see what happens. And so I think coming into Carpe Diem, like, we had done some pretty big tours, and so we felt pretty seasoned and like more professional. Because WHVN, we had done some fun tours with Deftones, but you know, we were still kind of newbies. So when Carpe Diem came around, we're like, okay, we have a lot of like miles under our belt, a lot of shows, a lot of like experience. So we took a little more time with Carpe Diem, but we had this, you know, I did this podcast before, and I was saying that El Diablo and WHVN are very different records. You know, they're hard. They're not, I wouldn't call them mainstream records. They're more difficult to get into unless you're a hardcore fan or maybe a Neurosis fan, something like that. You can maybe a little more easier. But for when we're touring with Slipknot or, you know, Soulfly, those kids, they liked it, but I don't know if they fully got it, you know. So even Deftones fans, they got it, but you know, it took a special Deftones fan to like kind of really get into it. So when Carpe Diem came, like, we need to add something to our arsenal that's a little more, you know, that we could play with bands like those bands, and kids will kind of pick it up a little easier. So that's when we started, you know, writing a little more riffs and a little more song-oriented songs, because WHVN and Del Diablo, those aren't songs; those are more just just kind of like, you know, noises.
Yeah.
So we started writing, I guess, more song type songs with Carpe Diem and stuff, you know, still different, but, you know, a little more catchy, I guess. And so we were just excited to get in, just kind of just start writing songs, you know, like 3-minute songs, and try to like create something a little different than the first two records, and something that we could just add to our arsenal, our live arsenal. You know, because we had like, you know, Stick Up Kid and I See My Fave, but then, you know, when you like can add Carpe Diem to it and stuff like that, Saga, it's like, okay, we're adding to our arsenal, you know, so when we go on stage, we have these great songs that we can play and blow the crowd away. So I think it was more of just, we were just adding stuff to our you know, our army, kind of more so. So we were excited to get and try to write some heavy stuff and just see where it took us in the next record cycles, because the first two were just insane. Like we didn't expect any of that. You know.
And how did this one treat you then in the sort of like the aftermath of releasing it?
It was the best record we ever put out. I mean, we got lucky because doing a lot of those big tours, you know, we started attracting different agents and labels and stuff. And so Music for Nations, I don't know if you remember them, they picked us up beginning of the WHVN record. They actually put that out, and then they full on put on Carpe Diem. They took the reins to put that out, and that record label was amazing. They were so good, such great people. Andy Black and like Melanie and all those people over there, just amazing people. Like if you wanted to be on a record label, that's the label you wanted to be on. They took such good care of us, and they made Will Haven a name in the UK and Europe. Like they did everything they could for us. I mean, they put the video out. Luckily we got Chino in it, so that helped, you know, get some views. But they took that video and they ran with it, and they put out singles, and then they brought us over there for the Krang Awards, and then they put us on any tour that we could like get on. You know, they tried to get us on, and so, you know, they got to cover Kerrang, which is insane. I still got that, you know, framed in my house. Like, I can't believe we're on the cover of Kerrang. Like, I mean, they went out for us, and we got a new manager. We got Tool's manager at the time, Pete Reading. You know, they helped us get that. And it's like, I mean, it was just insane. Like, we did Australia and Europe. And so, yeah, every record cycle just kept getting a little bigger and bigger. You know, not so much like we were making money off any of this. I mean, we never made a dime off the band, but just being able to have the opportunities we had were just beyond money. I mean, just be able to tour with these bands and like do these things that, you know, that we never thought we would ever do. We thought we would just play our club in Sacramento, you know? So, and it was just like this crazy whirlwind of like, okay, every time I put a record, just something amazing happens. Like, okay, this is crazy. What is this? Doesn't make sense, you know? So we were just super happy, you know, just in a good mood and having fun. And luckily we had the people behind us that cared about us, and they were a family. So, you know, any other label, I don't know if it would have worked, but we just happened to be on that label that they just loved us. They were family. And so anything we asked, they did, and vice versa. So it just worked out perfectly.
That's good. I've heard good things. I think I did know a few people that worked there. And it's one of those labels that kind of cared about that particular side of music. It wasn't one that kind of like branched out into different sort of avenues of like pop and everything like that. It was a metal label, and they looked after some of the sort of like classic bands as well. Like got initial releases off a lot of them, and then do other things, and obviously you guys as well. And yeah, no, Music for Nations, I believe they're kind of still around as a subsidiary of one of Sony's many births.
Yeah, well, it's a funny story because it's because after before Moritz Day, we'd kind of taken a break, and we didn't know if we were going to break up or keep going, and we were just kind of on a hiatus. And then one of the people contacted me from Music for Nations, the newer version of it. I mean, all the old people are all gone now; they don't work there anymore. But somebody that called me and said, "Hey, what's William been doing these days?" I'm like, "Well, we're not doing anything really." And they're like, "Well, if you guys want to do a record, we'd love to, you know, put it out for you guys." I'm like, "Whoa, okay." And of course, it's not the same people, but it was still Music for Nations. But that actually lit the spark to get us to write Muerte. It's because we weren't going to do a record. So,
Okay.
so it's funny, like years later, just that name Youth for Nations made us be active again, which is funny.
Yeah.
But we didn't end up doing anything with them, but they're the ones that kind of kicked us in the butt again.
No, that's good. That's good. I mean, obviously they you know, even if you've got new people working there, they know
Who you are, and we're interested,
all that kind of stuff, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So going on from Carpe Diem, obviously you guys went on, you had a little bit of a break in between the next album, I believe. Was it between that and
so of course band stuff is always crazy. So our original drummer Wayne had left right during Carpe Diem writing process. So we had to scrounge to find a new drummer. We had a couple replacement drummers come in and do some stuff, and then we finally picked up Mitch. Funny story on Mitch is that he had come to me a while ago and said, if you guys need a drummer, I'm in. And we had actually gotten Chris from Far to play drums with us for a little bit, and then my friend Dave played on the record, some of the record. And then but Dave couldn't tour, and Chris couldn't tour either. So we had a tour coming up and we didn't have a drummer. So I was like, last minute, I'm going to call Mitch. So I called Mitch. I didn't really know Mitch. I knew him a little bit, but not enough, but I called him up, said, hey, we got a tour. Would you do the tour with us? And he's like, I'm in. So he went on tour with us, and then he just became, part of the family, right? He clicked us right away. And so he came in and finished recording Carpe Diem with us. And then he ended up just staying in the band since then. But then, we did a lot of touring Carpe Diem, and Grady kind of got burnt out a little bit on it, and he had just started having, I think he had his first kid around that time, and was just kind of more interested in just raising a family. And like I said, we never made money at this band. Like, we've lost, it makes me sick to my stomach how much money we've put into this band, but
I know.
So for him, it wasn't feasible. So we basically just called it a day. We quit. We played our last show in Sacramento. That the video that we put out, the home video we put out, that was our last show we ever played. Foreign Films.
Yeah.
And then we just took a break, and then we started Ghost Ride, a side band of ours, and then another band called Abominable Iron Sloth, and so we had other projects going on. And so it was a couple of years, I think, that we didn't do anything. And then I don't know how we even got back together. But we did. And then we did start jamming. And then Grady had started jam with us, and then he left. And so right in the middle of the Hierophant, Grady had left. So that's when we got Jeff Jaworski to sing on that record. He saved our life. That record was pretty much done, and we didn't have a singer, so Jeff came in and did it.
Nice.
But that was a fun record because we stayed at I stayed at Chino's house, but recorded Sean's house.
Nice.
From Far Lopez, and that was a fun experience, even though it was tumultuous, like trying to find a singer, but the experience itself was a lot of fun. So and then after that, we just kind of kept it on the back burner because we didn't know what we were going to do. And then eventually Grady did come back, and then we did our last few records with Grady. So being in a band, it's hard, it's chaos, and trying to keep everybody happy all the time is funny, but we've persevered, and we're still here. So
yeah, no doubt. Just testament to what your passion, if you will, and you want and another band, like you mentioned there, with Far, absolutely love that. But again, I saw them with Deftones. They brought them to Europe, and again at the Astor, another band. Was it Tink?
I was on that tour, actually. I was tagging for Far at the time.
Oh, okay, cool. I may have seen you from the side. But no, it's was it Tin Cups, The Strings to You, I think it was the album, and there was another album. Is it Water and Solutions?
Yep.
So fantastic albums.
Oh yeah, amazing. And what's cool is because we have a small circle of friends in Sacramento. It was pretty much us, Deftones, and Far, and I ended up moving in with Sean in '92, and Far was just getting bigger on the local scene. And but I've known Far since about their first demo. So watching them grow from their first demo to Water Solutions was such an amazing experience. And just I used to go to all the shows with them. I used to tech for Sean, and stuff like that. So being able to see, and that was one thing I loved about going out of town and watching Far Deftones, because they'd always play Sacramento, but I'd go with them when they play San Francisco or go to LA, and I'd just be in the crowd, and I would love to sit back and just watch people seeing them for the first time, because I knew them, but watching people go, oh my God, what am I watching right now? Because they were amazing back then. Both bands were.
Yeah.
And so I would just love being that guy in the crowd, like, all right, you guys are gonna see some shit right now, And I used to love that. I used to love seeing that. So seeing them get the props they deserved, Far should have got way more than they got, but seeing the Deftones explode was awesome. But Far was a band that I always just thought they were gonna be way bigger than they were, and they just never got that jump that everybody else got. But yeah, it was amazing musicians, amazing people, but I was always just so glad I was around them, and being able to watch them grow was awesome.
Oh, that's great. Having the like you say, the sort of home turf that you have. Talking of Deftones, they're responsible for me seeing you guys. They're responsible for me seeing Far. And I've followed the Deftones since Adrenaline. Like the first track I heard was on MTV. It was their video for Bored. And my friends sort of had the album and just sort of got me into this whole the whole sort of what became new metal at the time. So it was like Korn, Incubus, all those sort of bands that kind of rose at the same time. But then a couple of years ago, when I was living in Florida, Incubus touring with Deftones, which was absolutely amazing. They were playing amphitheater shows, which is ridiculous, but it's because I've seen them in tiny venues. But yeah, just sort of seeing that and seeing the evolution of Deftones to this point, and of Incubus as well, for that matter, because I saw them back in the day of Enjoy and Science and things like that. Those albums, they're a very different animal now. Whereas Deftones they're a different animal, but they're kind of still within that kind of heavy sort of side of things. Does that make sense? Heavy and experimental.
Yeah, it's funny because I've known the guys my whole life, but that's one band that I don't ask to hear anything before the record comes out. I could call up Abe and here's some of your stuff, but I want to hear it when it's done, and I always get super excited when I hear they're writing new stuff, because I have no idea. I've known these guys for 30 years. I have no idea what it's going to sound like. And I love that, and I know these guys really well, and I would expect to know what kind of they might sound like, but I have no idea. Every time they're Abe's we're writing a new record. I'm like, okay, I have no idea if you guys are going to go soft, you're going to go hard, you're going to mix it too. But it's exciting to me because I know it's going to be good, and I don't know what it's going to sound like. And I always love that about them. Every record's been like that. And their new record, I think it's my favorite. I love their new record, Ohms. I didn't know what to expect, coming into that. And then when I heard it for the first time, I sat down and listened to the whole thing. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. They've mixed the two so well, of heavy, but still melodic and dark. And then Chino's vocals, I think, are just killer on the new record. So yeah, it's I'm amazed every time, I'm just they're one of my favorite bands, they're good friends of mine, but they're still if I wasn't friends with them, I would still love that band, as much as I do now.
No, they're I could talk about them for hours.
Me too.
I've said the other time I'm in Florida as well, a smaller venue but outdoor venue, and their Periphery is their support as well, which was amazing. It's the first time I saw Periphery live. And again, they have this real knack of taking really good bands with them. So
yeah, I love them about them too, is that they've always, and I think it's been it's hurt them a little bit, because they've been offered. I've seen some of the tours they've been offered, and they've turned them down, and stuff that could have blown them up, and they're like, no, we don't want to do that. We want to do our own thing. And then they'll take out somebody you don't even know, you know. So that the ticket sales aren't as good. When they took us out, that was a big deal, because Around the Fur had just come out. It was their first European tour, and they went over there far, but this was their second time they've been over there on their own. And so you would think they would take out a band they want to sell these venues out, and because they weren't sure if they were going to or not. And so they're going to take out us. No one knows who the hell we are. I mean, we're not even known in California at the time, you know, in Sacramento a little bit, but not even in California. They're taking us to Europe. Like, what are you doing? And so that was just kind of the people they are. Like, we don't care. We want to take our friends and we want to take bands that are good that we like. You know, we don't care if we sell out the venue or not. You know, fortunately, most of the shows did sell out, so it helped. You know, that it wasn't such a backlash from their agents and stuff. But like, that's what they do. They just take out bands, and I've discovered bands from them that I would have never known if they had not mentioned it or taken them out. Like, they took out Code Orange.
Oh yeah.
Before they knew who they were, you know. So I mean, they're just in. I mean, Chino's so entrenched in music and new music, and he's always staying up with bands and new trends and stuff. And I give him props for that. You know, he does his homework, you know, and so does Stefan. And so they have a knack for like finding really cool openers, which a lot of bands don't. They'll just package together and like, oh, let's go out and, you know, make tons of money. They're not like that. Like, they just go out, have fun, and make sure that the whole time you're there, you're hearing good music or new music, you know. And that's pretty rare in the business right now, which is cool.
It is indeed. It is indeed.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it's like I say, I've noticed with like Chino and stuff, he did a bunch of like live streams over the lockdown and things, and I know he's very much into his kind of experimental kind of electronic music and stuff.
Yeah.
Stuff he's released previously. And that's always cool. I mean, they obviously did the reissue of White Pony last year with the remixes, which was amazing. Those remixes, they got some absolute fucking top like producers on that as well. Which was great. But yeah, no, love that band.
Yeah, I do too. I love them for many different reasons, but I mean, their music is pretty special. You know, I mean, I've taken a lot of influences from them, you know, of course, growing up with them and stuff. I mean, it always been a huge influence on me, but you know, personally, them as people are amazing as their music. I mean, they're just good, solid people. And yeah, I love those guys for many, many reasons, but their music is inspiring. Yeah.
Awesome. No, that's good to know. They're nice guys.
Yeah. There's only a few bands that are just like, you know, just great. I mean, the whole band, great people, you know, and they're one of them.
Awesome. Let's bring it back to you guys, if you don't mind, on that front. On to the next album, if you don't mind, the Vjor Dia. Oh
yeah, Vordire. Vordire.
Sorry, I pronounced my thing.
I don't either. I'm just
but yeah, take us back to that time, because obviously you guys have been away, and then obviously Grady had been in and out, and now he was back with this album. Is that right?
Yeah.
And you were releasing through Belia Brothers.
Correct. Yeah.
Which at the time had they had quite a few bands. Skin Dread, I believe, Soil, a few bands. I know it was like it was the Belia Brothers. The guy who was in is it Saigon Kicks? And
Jason Beeler, and his brother. It was that Skin Dread is actually the one who got us the record deal.
Oh wow.
So we became friends with Skin Dread. Actually, they opened up for us on some of WHVN. Like, we did some headlining shows in England, and we took them with us because I knew Benchy a little bit from Dub War and stuff. And
cool. And
Skin Dread just started starting out, so they had opened up for us on a few shows, and so we became really good friends with them. Still to this day, I talk to them all the time, and they called me out of the blue and said, hey, you know, I was talking to Beeler Brothers about you guys. If you guys are interested, and I'm like, yeah. So I talked to Jason and ended up doing 2 records with them. So that was really cool. I mean, for Skin Dread to look out for us, that was awesome. So because we didn't have anything at the time, we were just kind of just you know, just hanging out in hiatus state, or you know, what we normally do. So it's funny, we have people come out and like, what are you guys doing? Let's do, you guys should do something here, you know. So yeah, we did that with Beeler, and that was good. I mean, Jason, they were a good company, and they did some cool stuff for us. But yeah, I mean, actually, personally, I love that record a lot. It was a fun record to make, but it was I always loved moody, kind of darker stuff, and it seemed like that record definitely fit my vibe a little more. It was heavy, but it was really dark. It was more of a movie soundtrack kind of vibe to it, and that was always something I always wanted to try to accomplish in our music. So that was pretty much the one I was like closest to it, and yeah, it came out great. I had a good time with that record. We didn't really do much touring wise on that record. We did like one show in London and a couple other things, but you know, we didn't really do much on that record. So but our bass player had left at that time too, so we were looking for a bass player.
Fair enough.
He moved to Texas. Yeah, he moved to Texas, so we had a couple of people filling in for that, and then yeah, it was just, so we didn't do too much, but I mean, I love the record. It was a great record. Yeah.
And then a few years after that as well, you released Myrte, like you already mentioned. You were kind of in, again, hiatus, and you kind of got a spark of, I guess, inspiration, like you said, from like Music for Nations and things like that. And how was that album for you guys? Because I mean, it's a solid album. Like, you know, it was like, you know, it was Will Haven, if you will.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, the whole spark was at you know, when Music Nations call, you know, like, hey, you guys want to do something? Like, yeah, let's. And then that kind of got us like thinking, let's just go, you know, write a new record. Why not? You know, so I had to make sure everybody was on board still. And so we started writing, and we actually had a lot of stuff that we had kind of, me and the bass player and drummer Mitch, we had kind of just screwed around and made noise, whatever. So we had a bunch of stuff recorded, but it wasn't really Will Haven-y kind of stuff. It was more just kind of Pink Floyd-y weird stuff. And so I started going through demos and like, you know what, I can take some of this stuff and incorporate it into some Will Haven music, I think. So it took me about a year to like kind of mesh the two together and make it kind of cohesive. But the main goal was to kind of go back to our roots a little bit and kind of make it more, you know, WHBN-ish, kind of El Diablo-ish kind of stuff. Not so blatant, but you know, more kind of vintage Will Haven.
Yes.
Than more of the lower down tune stuff we had done. And that came out great. When we were done recording, I was like, this is a great record. I think it's a great record for us to put out right now, because, you know, it kind of puts us back to where we were and kind of the more original Will Haven sound. So yeah, I was happy with it. I was totally happy with it. It's one of my favorite records that we put out. So yeah, it was fun. I mean, we did a lot of cool stuff with that record. We put a video out. We toured quite a bit on it. Like I said, 2019, we were all over the place. Probably the most touring we've done in a long time. So it was a great year for us, you know. And I thought, you know, like, okay, things are starting to pick up, and we'll put another record out and go to download, and then COVID hit and it just put a wrench in the whole thing. But at least we got a great year of like really fun touring in and some really good shows. So
Awesome.
That was nice. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a good album. I did enjoy that one. And unfortunately I missed your London show. It was at the 229, I think it was.
Oh, 229, yeah. That was fun, yeah.
I think I what I was doing that night, but I couldn't make it. I really wanted to.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, couldn't make it, as things happen. But no, then I was hoping you would do a couple of dates around Download as well. Initially, I don't know if that was the initial plan, or you were just coming over to do Download and then the rest of the Europe.
Yeah, well, the first Download, we were actually trying to do some one-off shows with Deftones, and because they had the 2020 Download, I guess what it was in. They were going to do some one-off shows in London, kind of secret shows, whatever, and we were going to open up for those. So I was like, that's going to be, you know, we were trying to get on those, but that would have been amazing. You know, it kind of been like 1997 all over again. You know, so we were excited about that, and that didn't happen. And then this year we were going to do a couple more. I don't think with them, because they were doing some other festivals, but we were going to try to do some other stuff. But then, yeah, of course, if you don't get Download, then you can't really do anything else around that. So yeah, we just kind of scrapped it all. So we'll have to see what the future holds. But yeah, we were going to try to do since we're over there, do some other stuff as well. So we'll see what happens.
Cool. Well, I'll definitely be there. In one way or another.
Awesome.
But yeah, what's like, obviously with this, like the plans of the new album you've got coming out, I know we talked about it at the beginning. Are you still looking for people to kind of do those sounds and stuff for you, or have you got enough now to kind of go on with what you've been creating?
It's funny, yeah, because like I just had this idea. I don't know if anybody's the end of Sgt. Pepper's, when, you know, the very last note on the record is that piano thing that they all did, and there was always a rumor going around that like it was a bunch of different musicians, like it was people from the, you know, Queen, whatever. It was like all these musicians hit that one note at the same time. But I think that's a rumor. I think that's not true. But I always said when I was a kid, I was like, that's so cool that they had all these musicians play one note. And so I was just, sitting there when I was writing the new record, like, that'd be kind of cool if it was more fans than it was like getting just random musicians. So as a feeler, I just put it out there saying, if anyone wants to submit, a certain or a note, just record a note, send it to me, and I'll try to piece it into a song. And then I only thought, a couple people responded, whatever. And then I ended up getting like 200 emails from like people just sending G sharp. But what's cool is that people had played it on guitar, some people put it on like a harmonica, some on a piano, some on a banjo. It was like all these different instruments, and it was rad. And I was able to kind of morph it all together to make it sound like one note. And initial thought was to be the last song, the last note on the record, because with Will Haven, you don't know if it's going to be, our last record or not. And so I was like, if this is going to be our last record, it'd be kind of cool if the fans were the last note to play on a Will Haven record. So that was the initial thought. And so I put it all together and put it on the song, the last song. But then we've had all this time off, or, we've had all this time to like, listen to the record. I've actually put that song as the first song.
Oh, okay.
And so that's still on there.
Nice.
But it opens the record, which is really cool. So instead of being the last note, there actually would be the ending note of the first song. Nice. But it turned out really cool. But yeah, we've already mixed it, and it's already on the record. So yeah, no more submissions. We got all that we needed, but it turned out awesome. Like I wasn't expecting that many submissions, and it took me forever to put it all together, but we got it, and awesome. It came out rad, and it adds to the record because this record is I don't even know how to explain it. It's heavy, but it's weird and different, and it's one of the records you got to put on, and it's a journey. Like it's not like Morte was more song oriented. It's like more songs. This one's not. This one's just like, it's just about 45 minutes of chaos, and but it has peaks and valleys, and I love it. I love this record a lot. Awesome. I can't wait till it's done. But yeah, it's like stuff like that we put in there. It just adds to it. So, but it's on there and it's cool. I love it. I'm glad. It's a great idea.
I look forward to hearing it. Honestly, it's that. I mean, I look forward to hearing your music regardless. But that sounds great. Like just having the fans to kind of, play those notes for you, and then you just construct something out of it, which is, yeah. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, I mean, the whole Beatles thing was just the idea of it, and I was kind of cool if the fans did it, because now with like Pro Tools and GarageBand, I mean, you could easily submit something to somebody over the internet, and it's not even that big of a deal. So I figure, well, if we can do that, then like we can make it happen. But yeah, I mean, I've always wanted like the fans to be a bigger part of the band, especially our band, because we're not mainstream. We're a full-on cult band. Like we're probably one of the most underground cult bands you could think of. Like we're in that scene of like, where it's like you got to dig to find us. And I love that though. I love that we're underground cult band. It makes to me that makes us cool. So so when fans are more part of that, that means more to me. They can actually be a part of this than just some band you can't talk to or reach or whatever. I was a kid, I was a fan of Motley Crue, and I was like, I didn't think those guys even really existed. I just thought they were just made up characters. Like they're just this mystery thing. But a cult band, you can feel, you can grab them, you can touch them, you can talk to them, you can they're more a part of your life.
Yeah. No.
So so I love when fans are more part of what we do.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, Jeff, I've got a couple of quick questions left for you, if that's all right.
Yeah. No, it's all good.
Up if that's all right. But what I'd like to know, these are more about your sort of like musical history, influence wise and everything. But apart from your sort of say top 10, which you probably normally get asked, what's top album and stuff like that. What I want to find out outside that top 10, what are your honorable mentions? If you could name a couple of albums that don't quite make it into that top 10, but were kind of really influential.
Ooh, some obscure ones, right?
Yeah.
Let's see. It's kind of hard to I mean, I think hardcore bands, I think like all those Bloodlet records, huge influence on me. I mean, it's be close to my top 10, but like, I mean, I have to like give a lot of it to the early like hardcore stuff that kind of formed Willhaven, you know, like Earth Crisis and Bloodlet and Snapcase,
Nice.
stuff like that. And then, you know, Cannibal Corpse is a huge influence on me. Yeah, and then, you know, but then you have like, I love band. I mean, I love Sunny Day Real Estate and, you know, Jeremy Enoch and, you know, of course Radiohead would be in my top 10, but like, you know, Radiohead, I think OK Computers one was huge influence on me. I mean, the biggest influence on me ever has been Pink Floyd. That's, you know, my top band, but a lot of people, you know, go to the Dark Side of the Moon and the Wall, but like I love like Momentary Lapse of Reason, Division Bell, stuff like that. Like those are, you know, not people's top picks when they think of Pink Floyd, but they're mine, you know, because that's what I grew up on. That's when I saw them live, when those records, and you know, of course Sepultura, and then, you know, I mean, but even like Far and Deftones and the bands from Sacramento that were huge influences on me too that no one ever heard of. And then we had, you know, me and Sean from Far had our own band called Sock. That was pre Willhaven, and that was probably our biggest influence on Willhaven was that. You know, Neurosis, and you know, I don't know. It's growing up in the ~90s, it was just like this whole just hodgepodge of music, man. It's like, close my door. There's so many bands and so many influences, you know. I mean, one day I'm listening to Neurosis, the next day I'm listening to like, you know, Radiohead. It's like, it was just Faith No More and Mr. Bungle. It's probably my favorite record of all time. Is the first Mr. Bungle record.
Yeah.
So it's like it's just so different, you know. And you don't have that today, where you don't have that library of music you go up to and just pick one. Like, oh, this is it. This is it. You know, it's like, I don't know, because the '90s was just a melting pot of everything, and you could grab influences from everything, you know, and just make your own dish of just whatever you wanted, you know. I mean, Deftones are guilty of that. I mean, it's like they're heavy, but then like they're not heavy, you know, and it's they're not one genre, you know. And that's what Willhaven to me was. I never wanted to be one genre. I wanted to be just this big wall of noise that was like an emotional roller coaster, you know. So I don't know, I have a million different influences, you know, and I have my major ones, but then like even my offshoot ones are still major to me. So I don't even know. If somebody asked me a top 10, I couldn't give you a top 10. I have no idea, because I love so many records. If you name like Faith No More, Angel Dust, like, oh, that's my favorite. Like, oh wait, well, Mr. Bungle's my favorite. Oh wait, but you know, Roots is my like it's so hard.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's some absolute like great like bands you mentioned then, like early hardcore stuff I was very much into, so things like Earth Crisis, Snapcase, bands like Vision of Disorder,
Dead Guy, I mean, like, yeah.
And
I mean, that whole Victory catalog was, I mean, amazing. I mean, there wasn't one band on there, you know. Even Revelation, the record we were on, like, you had Inside Out. I mean, Inside Out's one of my biggest influences, like still to this day, you know. And bands like Undertow, and like, yeah, it's crazy how many amazing bands there were back then.
Yeah, no, it was a good time for music. And also going back further than that, obviously with like Pink Floyd and stuff, huge sort of like thing in my life, because my dad was very much into them. And I love them as well, and yeah, beyond sort of Dark Side, beyond, you know, that sort of side of things as well, and just sort of, yeah, just one of those bands that just kind of did what they did, you know, and people listened rather than, you know, pandered to what people wanted, if that made sense.
Well, for me it was a little different, because I knew when I was growing up, you know, I heard, you know, the singles, whatever, on the radio. I didn't really pay much attention to them, but you know, you hear like, you know, Another Brick in the Wall, whatever.
Yeah.
And then I was able to get tickets to see them when I was a freshman in high school, a Momentary Lapse of Reason tour.
Yeah.
And you know, I knew one song. I knew Another Brick in the Wall. It's the only song I kind of knew on the radio. And then when I saw that show, that changed my life. Like, I didn't know many songs they played that night, but the show and the sound and just the visuals and like the power they had. I was like, oh my God, I've never seen anything like this in my life. And then after that I was hooked. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, that band destroyed me that night, you know.
Yeah.
And I wasn't even high. I wasn't even smoking weed.
I was gonna say, like the stories my dad used to tell, because he saw them live many times back in the sort of like 60s, 70s sort of era, and the way that they were constructing, obviously the show itself, but like you said, the sound they had, like in the shows that he saw, that quadraphonic sound, which was anomaly. It was like they had, like, you know, noises like bees going around everyone. Everyone's like looking around. It was like being in the cinema today, which is sort of like commonplace. But back then, he just said it just blew his mind. It was just one of those things where they were just manipulating all these things, and it was just like it was just like just all the senses were kind of like, you know, just bombarded with different things.
Well, I think that's why I love him so much, is that they cared, you know. They took every little detail they could to make an experience of watching live music to the extreme, you know, like with the videos and the lights and the lasers. Like, they didn't just go up there. I mean, they could have went there and just played their hits and people were like, oh, I love them. But like, they took that experience to a whole, I mean, it's like THX and movie theaters. Like, they took it to a whole nother level, and still no one to this day has like been able to touch it, you know?
Yeah.
And that's what I love, is their attention to detail and their passion for it, and they care. Like, I mean, I've watched, I didn't see Roger Waters' The Wall tour that he had done, but I just watched the video of it, and the video of it is insane. Like, the attention to detail that he took on that tour, I'm like, holy crap, dude! Like, that must have been mind blowing if you were there, you know. And that's how a live show should be. It should be just like, you should be go there and just come out just mentally just screwed up, you know.
Yep, definitely. Well, I've got one more question left for you. Then I'll let you get on with the rest of your day, which should be all right. So what are your hobbies away from music? So when you're not doing Will Haven, when you're not doing any of your other sort of like musical side projects or anything like that, what do you kind of do to sort of, you know, separate from it if you need to?
Yeah, and maybe I'm a little blamed to why William takes hiatus, is like, I have a million hobbies that I've grown up doing. Like, I think during some of the time of the William hiatus, I raced motorcycles, like motocross, and I actually raced speedway too, which I know is big over in Europe. We have it here in America. And I was racing speedway for a while and motocross, and then I surf. I'm trying to move to the ocean eventually. I just want to be a hippie surfer for the rest of my life. That's my goal. I play a lot of golf. Swim. I do swim laps every day. Keeps me in shape. It's great exercise. So yeah, I mean, I got two dogs that I walk miles every day, you know. But that's kind of takes me a lot of time. But yeah, and I've just into like more extreme sports, you know, like motocross and surfing and stuff like that. And so yeah, I mean, my hobbies take up a lot of my time, and so when I'm not doing Will Haven, I go full on into those things, and that takes up a lot of my time. So when I'm not doing music, I'm still okay. You know, I'm still not like tripping out and like, you know, going, what are we doing? I need to play now. Music's, I mean, William is just another hobby for us. And so I just kind of add it to my list of stuff I love to do. So it's not so much my bread and butter. I love music. I love playing music. I grew up in it. And, but it's not my total adrenaline rush. You know, I get it from other places. So yeah, I got tons of hobbies and I love them all just as much as I love playing music. So I feel pretty blessed to like have that much passion for stuff, you know, in life. You know, it's kept me happy and kept me healthy, and I feel blessed, man. I totally feel blessed to be able to have love for a lot of different things, you know. And I'm not great at them, but I love them.
No, I'm very much the same. I've got like 101 sort of like hobbies. Like when I'm not like, say, I mean, I DJ is my main sort of like musical outlet these days. But I'm looking at my golf clubs right now. They're right there. I play golf.
Nice.
Awesome. I've got my own dog. You know, we take her for walks and stuff and all that. I've got kids and all that. So it's just sort of, you know, and I get involved in little like nerdy stuff, like little miniature painting, wargaming type stuff. You know, And
I always say that's the key to life, man, is passion, man. It's like to remain happy in life is like you find a passion and just go for it. Go have fun with it. Don't think you're going to be a master at it. 'Cause I mean, I've been surfing my whole life and I still can't master, 10-foot waves, and I can't jump the craziest jumps on my dirt bike, but I'm having fun, man. Like,
yeah,
I'm having a blast, so it's like find a passion and just like go with it and have fun with it, and you'll be happy for a long time.
no, that is exactly it. That is exactly
Yeah.
it. I think
Yeah.
on that note, we're going to leave it there. I think that's a perfect note to leave it on.
Awesome.
But Jeff, thank you very much, man. I really appreciate the time you spent with me today, and I look forward to hearing more Will Haven in the future, and hopefully see you guys over here once the world is open, if you will.
Yeah, man. I'd love to, man. I mean, England's our home, man. It's like that's where our fan base is. We love it there. I mean, it's my favorite place to play. Like I said, Astoria is my favorite venue in the whole world to play, and I'm so sad. I mean, to this day, I still get bummed that it's gone, but yeah, I can't wait to come back and play and have fun and be over there.
Yeah,
I miss you guys lots.
Awesome. Well, Jeff, have a good rest of your day, man. Thank you.
Thank you. You too, man. Thanks for everything. Appreciate it.
Thank you.